quiet community in County Cavan was rocked by tragedy when the body of a mother of 5 was discovered in her home, and her husband was found critically injured. Meanwhile, a blood-covered suspect stumbled into a chip shop, leaving locals stunned. What really happened that night? Today, we unravel the heartbreaking story of Annie Heineman and the events that shook this small Irish town. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening in County Cavan, a place where life moved at a peaceful pace, far removed from the bustle of city life. Annie Heineman, a cherished mother of 5, spent her day tending her garden, chatting with neighbors, and preparing dinner for her family. Her husband, Mark, a well-known handyman, had just wrapped up another long day of work. Everything seemed normal until it wasn't. Hours later, a frantic 999 call shattered the quiet. The voice on the line was panicked, broken. "Please, hurry, my wife." Then silence. When emergency responders arrived, they stepped into a nightmare. Inside the modest family home, Annie lay lifeless in the living room. The chaos of a struggle was everywhere. Overturned furniture, shattered glass, and streaks of blood leading into the kitchen. In the hallway, they found Mark Heineman barely clinging to life, clutching a chest wound. He tried to speak, but his words were too faint to understand. Meanwhile, just a mile away, an unsettling scene unfolded at a local chip shop. A man walked in, his clothes drenched in blood. He didn't say a word or order food. He just stood there, motionless, before collapsing to the floor. Panicked employees called the Gardaí, their voices shaking as they described what they saw. When authorities identified the man, the connection to the Heineman tragedy would reveal a chilling story that left the entire community in shock. Annie Heineman, a 55-year-old care worker and devoted mother of 5, was cherished for her kind spirit and deep ties to her community. She lived with her husband, Henk, a Dutch national, in Kilnavart, a picturesque village near Ballyconnell in County Cavan. Nestled among rolling green hills and peaceful waterways, it was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and Annie's name was always spoken with warmth. Born and raised in Cavan, Annie's compassion was evident from a young age. She helped elderly neighbors with groceries, volunteered at local events, and supported classmates during tough times. Her nurturing nature came naturally, so it was no surprise when she chose a career in caregiving. For more than 20 years, Annie tirelessly supported the elderly and vulnerable in her community. She was a comforting presence during illnesses, a cheerful companion during lonely days, and a steadfast listener when people needed it most. To her clients, she was an angel, brightening their darkest moments. Her work wasn't just a job, it was her calling, driven by a belief in the power of kindness to create ripples of positivity. Annie's dedication to her family was equally unwavering. She met Henk Heineman in the 1990s while he was traveling through Ireland in search of a simpler, more fulfilling life. Their connection was immediate, and within a year they were married. Together they built a loving home in Kilnavart, raising 5 children in an environment filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. Annie was the heart of her family, always present for her children. Whether cheering them on at sports events or hosting birthday parties that became the stuff of neighborhood legend, she had a knack for making each child feel special. Her quiet chats at the kitchen table and homemade meals prepared with care were hallmarks of her love. Henk, a skilled carpenter, was a steady presence in the family. He spent his days crafting furniture and repairing homes, earning respect for his craftsmanship and thoughtful demeanor. His calm and steady personality perfectly balanced Annie's outgoing nature, creating a partnership admired by all who knew them. The Heinemans were a cornerstone of the Kilnavart community. Their cozy 2-story home, surrounded by Annie's colorful garden, was a gathering place for neighbors and friends. Annie welcomed everyone with a pot of tea, freshly baked scones, and her warm, effortless conversation. She had a gift for making people feel valued. a quality that endeared her to all. And she was deeply involved in local charities, organizing fundraisers for causes close to her heart. At the church, she volunteered tirelessly, inspiring others with her generosity and faith. On weekends, she was often at the community center, helping with events or simply chatting with locals. For Annie, the community was an extension of her family, and she treated it with the same care and love. Her presence brightened Kilnavart, making life a little better for everyone she met. To outsiders, the Heinemans seemed to live a peaceful, idyllic life. But as that fateful evening would soon reveal, even the most seemingly perfect lives can be touched by unimaginable tragedy. On the evening of January 11, 2025, tragedy shattered the quiet of the Heineman household. What started as an ordinary night in Kilnavart took a horrifying turn. At 9:46 p.m., a panicked call came into emergency services. The voice was frantic, the words barely coherent, but one thing was clear: something terrible had happened at the Heineman home. When Gardai and paramedics arrived, they stepped into chaos. Inside the modest two-story house, they found Annie Heineman, a beloved mother and care worker, lying lifeless in the living room. She had been stabbed multiple times. Signs of a violent struggle were everywhere: shattered glass, overturned furniture, and blood streaked across the floor. Nearby, her husband Hank was found barely alive, gravely injured. He had deep stab wounds, including defensive marks on his arms, and was clinging to life. Medics worked urgently to stabilize him, but his condition was critical. He could only whisper faint, indecipherable words before being rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, a chilling twist was unfolding just a mile away in Ballyconnell. At 10:12 p.m., a man in his 30s walked into a chip shop, his clothes drenched in blood. Witnesses described his eerie calm as he approached the counter and quietly asked staff to call Gardai in an ambulance. He offered no explanation, no sign of distress, just an unnerving stillness, as if waiting for the inevitable. When Gardai arrived, he surrendered without resistance, his demeanor calm but unreadable. Back at the Heineman home, another grim discovery was made. Firefighters found evidence of an attempted arson in the kitchen, a small blaze that had failed to spread beyond one corner. It was a clumsy effort to destroy evidence, thwarted by the swift arrival of emergency responders. With the crime scene secured and a suspect in custody, investigators began piecing together the horrific events. Forensic teams worked through the night, meticulously examining every broken shard of glass, every blood stain, and every trace left behind. The evidence pointed to a premeditated and violent act, leaving a family destroyed and a town in shock. As the investigation deepened, questions loomed. Who was this man who calmly walked into the chip shop covered in blood? What could drive someone to commit such an unthinkable crime? And most haunting of all, why target the Heinemans? By the time dawn broke, the once peaceful town of Kilnavart was forever changed. Its friendly streets and familiar faces were overshadowed by the chilling reality that even the safest places can conceal unimaginable darkness. The investigation into the events of January 11, 2025 began immediately. Gardai worked tirelessly through the night, determined to uncover the truth about what happened at the Heineman household. Every detail, every moment was crucial. At the scene, forensic experts meticulously examined every inch of the home. Bloodstains were analyzed, fingerprints collected, and every displaced object was scrutinized. Overturned furniture and shattered glass told a grim story, a desperate struggle in Annie Heineman's final moments. In the kitchen, the remnants of a failed fire were uncovered. Accelerants had been used, pointing to a deliberate attempt to destroy evidence. Meanwhile, statements from the chip shop staff offered chilling insights. The suspect had arrived in blood-soaked clothes, eerily calm as he quietly asked for an ambulance in Gardaí. Witnesses described him as a man in his 30s, blank-faced and uninjured. Why had he chosen the chip shop? Was it a calculated move, or something else entirely? Their accounts became vital pieces in the timeline investigators were piecing together. The suspect, whose identity remains undisclosed, is now in custody. Early reports hint at a history of mental health challenges, though this remains under investigation. His motives are murky. Was this an act of personal vengeance or something entirely random? Gardaí are exploring every possibility. The Garda Technical Bureau played a pivotal role, using cutting-edge techniques to analyze blood patterns and reconstruct the harrowing sequence of events. Every clue, no matter how small, brought them closer to the truth. Preserving the crime scene was critical. The area around the Heinemann home was cordoned off to protect evidence, while neighbors were interviewed for anything that could shed light on the night's events. But few had seen or heard anything unusual in the quiet, close-knit community. As the investigation deepened, the pieces of the puzzle slowly came together. Forensic evidence and witness testimonies painted a clearer picture, yet key questions remained unanswered. Why had the Heinemanns been targeted? And what drove the suspect to such a horrific act? The search for justice continued. With every new discovery, the story became more complex, but Gardaí remained relentless. The community, once defined by peace, now faced the daunting task of reconciling with this tragedy. Annie Heinemann's family and friends are left with grief, while investigators press on, determined to bring clarity and justice to this heartbreaking case. The town of Kilnavart was shaken to its core by the tragic death of Annie Heinemann. A place once defined by its quiet charm and close-knit community now found itself struggling to make sense of the unimaginable. Annie, known for her kindness and generosity, had been the heart of the neighborhood. Her loss was felt deeply, sending shock waves through every corner of the town. Neighbors who had shared countless moments with Annie were left grappling with the reality of her absence. Outside the Heinemann home, flowers, candles, and handwritten notes began to pile up, a heartfelt tribute from a grieving community. Each item carried a personal message of love and sorrow. "She was the heart of this neighborhood," one neighbor shared. "Always smiling, always helping. It's hard to believe she's gone." Local politician Brendan Smith expressed the shared grief, saying, "We are all devastated by this terrible tragedy. Annie was a pillar of our community and her loss is immeasurable." His words echoed the sentiments of a town in mourning, struggling to reconcile the violence with the peace they had always known. In the days following the tragedy, the community rallied around the Heinemann family. Friends and neighbors organized food drives, set up donation funds, and offered to care for Annie's children. The outpouring of support was a reflection of Annie's impact on those around her. "It's what she would have done for any of us," one organizer explained. "She was always the first to help when someone was in need. Now it's our turn to honor her by doing the same." Vigils were held across Kilnavart, drawing hundreds of residents together. Candles were lit, stories were shared, and memories of Annie's kindness filled the air. "She wasn't just a neighbor, she was family to so many of us," one attendee said. "Losing her feels like losing a part of our town." The tragedy also sparked broader conversations about safety and mental health within the community. Local leaders called for increased resources and support, hoping to prevent something like this from happening again. But for most, the focus remained on honoring Annie's memory and supporting her loved ones through their grief. Though Kilnavart was shaken, the community's resilience shone through. In their darkest hour, they leaned on one another, finding strength in unity. Annie's legacy of kindness and compassion became a guiding light, inspiring those who knew her to carry forward the values she lived by. While the pain of her loss would never fully fade, her memory would continue to shape the town she had loved so deeply. As we reach the end of this tragic story, the questions linger, unanswered and haunting. What could drive someone to commit such a horrific act in a quiet, close-knit town like Kilnavart? Was it a moment of uncontrollable rage, a calculated plan, or something far more complex? And then there's the suspect's puzzling behavior. Why did he walk into the chip shop calmly asking for Gardai instead of running away? Was it guilt? A cry for help? Or could it be part of a deeper, more incomprehensible motive? Investigators are working tirelessly to uncover the truth, but the mystery remains. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think could have led to this devastating chain of events? Share your thoughts, theories, or questions in the comments below. Let's try to piece this together and bring clarity to a story that has left so many searching for answers. As the investigation continues, one question remains: what could drive someone to commit such a horrific act? Was it a moment of uncontrollable rage, a hidden vendetta, or the result of struggles unseen by the outside world? With the suspect now in custody and the quiet town of Kilnavart grappling with the loss of one of its most cherished members, the shock waves of this tragedy will be felt for years to come. But we are left to wonder, could this tragedy have been prevented? What signs, if any, were missed? And how can we, as a society, ensure that no family, no community, ever has to endure such pain again? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The search for answers continues. You found this story compelling? Give this video a thumbs up. It really helps support our channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of true crime. Stay tuned for our next video, where we'll explore another chilling case from Ireland that left a nation in disbelief. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Share your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.